There are 3 money moves I believe every person should make before the next economic downturn arrives. Not after it arrives. Before. And the order of these 3 moves matters just as much as the moves themselves, because if you do them in the wrong order, you can undo the protection of the first move with the mistake of the third. So I am going to give you all 3 in the exact order I believe they should be done, and I am going to be quick and clear about it because this is information you can actually use, and your time matters to me. Let me tell you first why I am making this video now, today, rather than waiting. A downturn is not a question of if, it is a question of when. The economy moves in cycles. It always has. There are good times and there are difficult times, and they follow one another the way seasons do. Right now, after a long stretch of generally rising markets, a great many people have quietly arranged their money as though the good times will simply continue forever. They have not prepared. And the hard truth is that preparation only works if it is done before the difficulty arrives. You cannot buy insurance on a house that is already burning. The calm period we are in right now is not a reason to relax. It is the window. It is the time to act. And these 3 moves are what I would do with that window. But before I give you the first move, I want to be honest with you about something, because honesty is the only thing that makes a video like this worth watching. The third move, the last of the 3, is the one that almost everyone gets wrong. It is the move that quietly destroys more retirements and more savings than any market crash ever has. And it is not about what to buy. It is about what to do with your own mind when the downturn actually hits. I am going to explain the first 2 moves carefully because you need them in place for the third one to work. So stay with me to the end. The third move is the one that protects everything. Let me begin. Move number 1. Diversify genuinely before anything else. This is the first move for a reason. It is the foundation, and every other move sits on top of it. Now, I know that the word diversify is one of the most overused words in all of personal finance. And because it is used so often, most people think they already understand it. And most people think they already do it. But here is the problem. Most people do not actually do it. They only think they do. So let me tell you what genuine diversification actually means, because the difference is everything. I have a simple rule that I have repeated for my entire career. Do not put all of your eggs in one basket. Most people hear that and they nod because it sounds obvious. But then they look at their own savings and they have, in fact, put nearly all of their eggs in one basket. They are heavily concentrated in the stocks of one country, or worse, in a small handful of popular companies, or worse still, in whatever performed best over the last few years because recent winners feel safe. That is not diversification. That feels like safety, but it is concentration wearing the costume of safety, and a downturn strips that costume off in an instant. Here is the real meaning of the rule. The stock market goes through cycles of ups and downs, and it is genuinely impossible to reliably predict every rally and every downturn in advance. Nobody can do it consistently. Not me, not anyone. So if all of your money is in one type of asset, you are making a silent bet that you have timed it correctly, and that is a bet you cannot win reliably. The danger is specific. If everything you own falls at the same time, and then you need to withdraw money to live on while it is all down, you lock in a permanent loss. Real diversification is the protection against exactly that. So what does it actually look like? It means owning a genuine mix, a mix of different types of assets, not just different names within the same type. It means that when one part of your savings is having a hard time, another part is holding steady or even doing well. When stocks are suffering, something else like gold may be rising. Even within stocks, different sectors behave differently. The steady, essential businesses, the ones that sell things people need in every season, often hold up when the exciting, high-growth names are tumbling. A genuinely diversified person owns across all of it, so that their entire savings does not rise and fall as one single block. And here is the key principle behind Move 1. The principle I want you to carry with you. The whole point of diversification is to build something that does not depend on you predicting the future correctly. You should assume, honestly, that you cannot time the market. Build your savings on that assumption. A portfolio built that way does not need a forecast. It is already prepared for whichever way the next few years break. That is Move 1. Diversify genuinely so that you are protected no matter what comes. Do this first. Everything else builds on it. Now, move number 2. Hold a meaningful portion of your wealth in gold. I place this second, directly after diversification, because it is the single most important piece of a truly diversified portfolio during a downturn, and most people are missing it entirely. So let me explain why I feel so strongly about this, and let me be clear and quick about it. Most people misunderstand gold. They think of it as either an old relic with no modern purpose, or as a gamble, something you buy, hoping the price jumps. Both of those views are wrong, and both of them cause people to skip the one thing that could protect them. Here is the real reason gold matters, and it is simple. Almost everything else you own is, at its core, somebody's promise. Cash is a promise. A bond is a promise from a borrower. Money in a bank is a loan you have made to that bank. Every one of those things depends on someone else keeping their word and staying solvent. Gold is different. Gold carries no counterparty risk. It does not depend on any government, any bank, or any borrower. It exists outside the financial system. And during periods of financial stress, that independence is exactly what makes it valuable. I have said this plainly, and I will say it to you directly. I described gold, speaking publicly, as the safest money. I have also warned that the world is moving closer to what I have called a capital war, a period where currencies and capital flows become geopolitical weapons, and where the traditional assets people assume are safe become less reliable. In that kind of environment, gold does something the others cannot. It holds its value when paper currencies do not. It tends to do uniquely well precisely when the bad times come along. That is the entire reason it belongs in your plan before a downturn, not after. Now let me give you the specific guidance, because I do not want to leave you with a principle and no number. I have said consistently for years that most investors should hold somewhere between 5 and 15% of their portfolio in gold, not more, not your whole savings, a meaningful slice in that range. And the reason for that specific range is important. Gold is there to stabilize and to protect. But gold does not produce an income. It pays no dividend, no interest. It simply holds its value. So you do not want too much of it, because a portfolio needs assets that grow and produce income too. 5 to 15% is the range where gold does its protective job without crowding out everything else. The exact figure within that range depends on your own situation, and I want to be clear that I am giving you a general framework here, not personal advice for your specific circumstances, but the principle is firm. A portfolio with zero gold has no protection against the exact kind of stress a downturn brings. And here is something worth knowing, because it tells you that this is not just my personal opinion. The central banks of the world, the most sophisticated financial institutions that exist, have been buying gold heavily, year after year, adding to their reserves at a pace not seen in decades. The institutions whose entire job is to protect national wealth against instability are quietly doing exactly what I am describing. When the people who manage the reserves of nations are moving in one direction, an ordinary saver should at least pay attention to why. That is, move to. A meaningful allocation to gold, 5 to 15%, put in place now, before the downturn, while there is still calm. So now you have the first two moves. Move 1, diversify genuinely, the foundation. Move 2, add a meaningful gold allocation, the protection. If you did only those two things, you would already be far better prepared than the vast majority of people. But you would still be exposed to the one thing that undoes more savings than any crash. And that brings us to the third move. The one I told you at the start is the one almost everyone gets wrong. Move number 3. Control your own emotions when the downturn actually hits. I know that this third move is not what most people expect. They expect the third move to be another thing to buy. But I am telling you, after more than 50 years of watching this happen, that the third move is the most important of all. And it is not about buying anything. It is about what happens inside your own head when the difficult times arrive. Because here is the truth. You can do move 1 perfectly. You can do move 2 perfectly. You can build a beautifully diversified portfolio with the right gold allocation, and then you can destroy all of it in a single panicked afternoon during the downturn. That is how most people fail. Not because they picked wrong, because they could not hold on. Let me explain exactly how this destruction happens, because if you can see it coming, you can refuse to be its victim. A downturn arrives. The news becomes frightening. Every headline is bad. The value of your savings drops, and seeing that number fall triggers something deep and primal in a person. Fear. Real fear. And in that fear, the mind starts whispering a message that feels like wisdom, but is actually the most expensive mistake available. The message is, sell now. Before it gets worse, protect what is left. And so people sell. They sell when prices are low, at the very bottom, locking in a loss that was only ever temporary on paper. And then, because they are now frightened and on the sidelines, they wait. They wait for things to feel safe again. And things only feel safe again after the recovery is well underway and prices have already climbed back up. So they buy back in at the high prices. They have, through pure emotion, done the exact opposite of every rule of sensible investing. They sold low and they bought high. And they did it not because they were foolish, but because they were human and afraid and unprepared for their own emotions. This is the move almost everyone gets wrong, and now you can see why I saved it for last. The first two moves build the protection. The third move is what stops you from tearing that protection apart with your own hands. So let me give you clearly how to actually do move 3. First, understand and accept right now, in this moment of calm, that a downturn will come and that the value of your savings will fall during it. Decide now that this is normal. It is not a sign that something has gone wrong. It is not a signal to act. It is simply the season. A diversified portfolio is built to ride through exactly this. If you accept that truth now while you are calm, then when it actually happens, it will not shock you into a panic. You will recognize it. You will think, this is the thing he told me would happen, and I am prepared for it. Second, understand why holding steady is the winning move. When you sell in a panic during a downturn, you convert a temporary, on-paper decline into a permanent, real loss. The loss only becomes real at the moment you sell. If you hold, you give your diversified portfolio the time it was designed to have, the time to ride through the difficult season and recover when the cycle turns, as cycles always do. The person who understands this holds on and is protected. The person who only watches the falling number sells at the bottom and is not. The single greatest advantage you can have in a downturn is simply the discipline to do nothing, to let your structure work. Third, and this is the mindset of the most successful investors I have ever known, learn to see a downturn not purely as a danger, but also as an opportunity. When prices fall, good assets are, quite simply, on sale. The person who has done move 1 and move 2, the person who is diversified and calm and not forced to sell, is in a position to continue investing steadily through the downturn, buying good assets at lower prices. That is how real wealth is often built, not in the booms, but by the people who stayed calm and steady through the busts. You do not have to be a genius to do this. You only have to refuse to panic when everyone around you is panicking. So let me bring all 3 moves together now, quickly, so you can carry them with you. Move 1. Diversify genuinely, before anything else. Build a real mix of different assets so that your savings does not rise and fall as one single block, and so that you never need a correct prediction to be safe. Move 2. Add a meaningful gold allocation, somewhere in the range of 5 to 15%. The protective piece that holds its value when paper currencies and ordinary assets are under stress. And move 3, the most important of all, control your own emotions when the downturn hits. Decide now to hold steady. Understand that selling in panic is what turns a temporary dip into a permanent loss. And learn to see the downturn as the opportunity it can be for the prepared and the calm. 3 moves. In that order: diversify, protect, and then hold steady. And notice the honest truth that runs through all 3. Not one of them requires you to predict the future. Not one of them requires you to know when the downturn will come or how deep it will be. That is the entire point. You do not prepare for a downturn by predicting it. No one can reliably predict it. You prepare by building something that is ready for it whenever it comes, and by preparing your own mind to stay calm when it does. Preparation beats prediction. Every single time. The window to make these 3 moves is open right now, in this period of calm, before the downturn becomes the headline that everyone is reacting to at once. The calm is not the time to relax. The calm is the time to prepare. The people who use this window to diversify, to add their protection, and to steady their own minds will be the ones who ride through the next difficult season with their savings and their peace of mind intact. The people who wait will be the ones reacting in fear. And reacting in fear is always the most expensive thing an investor can do. Thank you for giving me your time and your attention all the way through this. The fact that you stayed to the end tells me you are someone who prepares rather than panics, and that quality, more than any single investment, is what will carry you through whatever the next few years bring. If this video was useful to you, tell me honestly in the comments below which of the 3 moves you have already made and which one you still need to do. I read the comments, and what you write tells me what to explain next. If you found real value here, consider subscribing, because we will keep working through these ideas together, calmly and clearly, one step at a time. Take care of yourself, and take care of what you have built. I will see you in the next video.